Okay, then we will move to under reports, item D, and that is our fall sports presentation of participation.
Is that, or they have it you have it in front of you?
Yes.
Good evening. I just want to share within my 5-minute time limit here as much information as I can regarding the fall season. I've provided you with a little bit more information, so I won't go through it as thoroughly as maybe I have in the past. But the first two tabs at the bottom are the ones that should look somewhat familiar to you. You've seen those in the past in terms of kind of a historical, the first tab being a historical record of what we've done in terms of participation in the past. The second page is specifically to the total numbers and not necessarily by grade. A couple of things I'd like to point out in the second one is in the cross-country boys column. For 2 years in a row, we've had the highest and second highest participation numbers we've ever had. And also in girls cross-country, 3 years in a row, 36, 30, and 30. And finally not finally, I've got one more after that, girls golf, 2 of the last 3 years, 23 and 24, we've had our highest numbers, I should say. And finally, the total girls participation, and that only makes sense with girls cross country and girls golf both having very high numbers this year, that the overall fall participation for the girls was tied for an all-time high back in 07, 08, I believe it was, of 208 participants. And one thing that's not on this sheet that I'd just like to share with you, those numbers, as we try to continue to keep those numbers as high as we can, we all know that we're dealing with enrollment declines. And from the WI standpoint, the number that was used this year for tournament placement was 1,027 students at the high school. The number that they'll be using next year will be 975. So there's a possibility we could be going down to Division II in some sports. That's a very realistic possibility. The third tab is an awards standings sheet that I tried to keep up with throughout the season. And as you can see, our football team ended at the top of the conference. Boys soccer was second in conference, and our girls golf team down in the second row, third across, was conference champions as well. And this is a way that the conference has to keep track of kind of who's doing best overall, not, maybe one team, for example, might be in the Big Rivers Conference, Menominee. They're probably going to win their conference football every year, but how do they do in all of their sports? So I think it's important that we keep in mind that we're doing okay. Obviously, boys and girls cross country, we want to make that improve, and not necessarily that better numbers always makes better performance, but it sure doesn't hurt. So hopefully those numbers that we've had, the significant amount of those better numbers for cross country were at the middle school, so hopefully those kids will stay with it and move up to the high school. The fourth tab, these are awards that were presented at the fall individual banquets, but they were selected by the coaches at the MVC Fall Coaches Meeting. And I'm not going to go through and read all the names, but each sport gets to pick an all-sportsmanship team member. The coach makes that selection, and those are listed there. The next one is Honorable Mention All-Conference, and those awards and the recipients, or sports and recipients, are listed there. That's kind of like a third-team All-Conference. The second team All-Conference, again, quite a number of football players at the top, and boys soccer, we were a little disappointed we didn't get a few more on the first team, but we did get 4 second team All-Conference selections in soccer. And then first team All-Conference is the next one, and it doesn't quite show up on the screen. There's some very outstanding athletes there, and specifically I want to pick out Dominic Olson, our inside linebacker, senior, who was MVC Defensive Player of the Year. So they're to be commended. All of these athletes are, from the sportsmanship to all of those, for their outstanding athletic performance. And then the next one, probably the most important one, not probably, I say it is the most important one, is the Academic All-Conference. And those students are listed there. In order to earn this award, a student has to have a 3.70 or higher grade point average and earn a varsity letter in the fall. So those are the students who met that criteria. Again, a very large list, and we really hope that that list continues to grow. And then finally, the Mississippi Valley Coach of the Year does not necessarily always go to the coach who of the conference championship team. We've had situations even with our own coaches where they've received that. I think Coach Zeba was Coach of the Year last year for baseball, and we were about in the middle of the pack. But Coach Pluger and Coach Genevico are to be commended for their efforts with both the football team and the girls golf team. So it was a great fall season. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. It was very good. Thank you very much.